Hey guys, Josh from All Points Fly Shop. Today I'm going to talk about dubbing. It is used in almost every nymph pattern and is now being successfully used in everything from larger streamer patterns for freshwater and even saltwater fly tying as well. We have quite a few options of dubbing here at the shop, but 4 specific ones that we use most often. And in looking at them to do this video, we noticed that there's a lot of similarities in them in terms of the materials that are used, but they make a very different type of dubbing that can be used in a wide range of applications. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the types of dubbing that we have here, what they're made of, how they're different from each other, and how to use them in fly tying. The first type of dubbing that I want to talk about is your standard rabbit dubbing. This is Hairline's rabbit dubbing, Hairline dubbing, and it is 100% rabbit hair. It is blended in a sense that gives you a type of material that's very easy to work with, whether it's making dubbing noodles or dubbing loops, but still retains, if you will, that spiky characteristic of rabbit hair, which makes it, when you're tying in, whether it's nymphs or whatever, a very lifelike and buggy appeal and look to the flies. This is also probably the #1 type of dubbing that's used as a baseline for making other types of dubbing, meaning that you would mix this with flash, squirrel hair, whatever it may be, to make your own types of dubbing to have your own sort of characteristic quality to the types of flies that you tie. Clearly the most popular type of dubbing, and this is the hare's ear color. It comes in dark hare's ear to caddis green to all kinds of different types of colors to give you a wide variety of options. Next up is Krystal Dub. Now, Krystal Dub is purely a combination of the regular rabbit dubbing and ice dub, which I'll talk about in a second, and it is blended to make a dubbing it's very similar to the regular rabbit dubbing, but it clearly, because it has mixed ice dubbing in it, has a little bit of flash. So you'll see the consistency. Here's Krystal Dub, and here's your regular dub. The consistency is very similar, but you'll see a little bit of some strands of flash that are in the Krystal Dub. It just gives your patterns just a little bit more, flash to them. So if you want to add a little bit of that to nymphs, streamer patterns for bodies, or whatever you might like, it just gives it a little bit more funk to it. For the flashiest dubbing out of the group, the award goes to Ice Dub. It is essentially 100% flash that's been blended and shredded, if you will, into a consistency that is very useful for dubbing noodles, dubbing loops, and still works very well with tying smaller flies, but it isn't made of any natural material at all. There's no rabbit hair, there's no squirrel hair. It's, again, purely flash. If you've seen the material that's on the underside body of a chubby Chernobyl, it's Ice Dub. A lot of guys are using this now for streamer bodies, for putting some extra little added reflection and flash to their nymph patterns. It's become a very widely used material. But the consistency is almost kind of like a steel wool brush, if that makes any sense. It's not abrasive. I don't think I'd call it that, because it's still very soft and supple, meaning that you can use it and apply it in different manners for fly tying. But because it's just purely synthetic flash, it has a very sort of different look than what your standard dubbing or even the Krystal Dub would be. Last but not least is Senyo's Laser Dub. This is a very interesting type of dub. It comes out of the mind of Greg Senyo, and it's essentially ice dub, as we just talked about, blended with, I guess for lack of a better term, some sort of acrylic synthetic fiber. I don't technically know if there's a name for the type of fiber that it's blended with, but the material, other than the ice dub, is very similar to like sheep's wool. It has a fluffier type of a feel to it and look to it. It doesn't quite feel as stringy, if you will, as say Ice Dub does. So when you're working with it, it takes a little bit, depending upon what you're doing, but if you're looking to get the most length out of it and have it be stringier, it takes a little bit of maneuvering, if you will, of the fibers, assorting them almost kind of like you would with bucktail, not stacking them, but getting rid of certain fibers and mixing them and blending them with your fingers. And with this type of material, you can really create all kinds of various looks and appeal. This is an incredibly popular type of dubbing and material for steelhead flies, for freshwater streamers. I tie a lot of freshwater streamers with Senyo's Laser Dub. It has a very interesting look in the water, has great movement, has obviously a little bit of flash because there's ice dub in it, but it has a translucency to it that is kind of hard to mimic. A very interesting type of a dub. Again, it is a mixture of the ice dub that we just talked about and synthetic fibers.